Janet Gardner of Vixen fame is my guest today on Radio Chatter. She's got her self-titled solo album out, a record she put together with her husband, Justin James. Of course, we talk a lot about that. The early days of Vixen, touring in the 80s, of course, the 90s grunge scene that came in. Speaking of the early days of Vixen, Fee Waybill from the Tubes played a key role in one of Vixen's biggest songs. Special guests that could appear on tour with them this year, as well as current female singers, and a ton more today.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff.
This is Radio Chatter with WRIF's own Meltdown.
It's a tough job talking to rock stars, but someone has to do it. Thanks so much for checking out the Radio Chatter podcast. It is Meltdown, back at it again today. And yeah, it's pretty cool. Since I started this podcast almost a year and a half ago, I guess, and really started to bear down and get some really cool guests, I'm talking to some people that I've never talked to before. And one of them is Janet Gardner from Vixen. And during the conversation, I bring up how I'm sure I saw them in the 80s, but I saw so many bands in the 80s. You know, they all kind of start to run together. Plus, it was like a billion years ago, as my 16-year-old daughter would say. That was like back in the 1900s. I know, it's like we walked to school or something. But anyhow, it's really cool to talk to Janet. She was really nice, and looking forward to seeing the show. By the way, if you want to go check out the show here in the Southeast Michigan area, Diesel Concert Lounge in Chesterfield, Michigan, Saturday, September 2nd. And her husband, of course, Justin James, touring, as well as this band she's put together. She talks a little bit about that, too. But yeah, the solo record's out right now. Like I said, came out on August 18th, and if you want to snag that, she talks about how some of the songs have a 70s tilt, an 80s tilt, 90s even, so it's pretty cool. Kind of runs the gamut. 10 songs with her solo self-titled album. In the meantime, I asked her to get started, what's going on in Planet Janet?
Life in Planet Janet is full of rock and roll good times.
I had a girlfriend named Janet years ago, another lifetime ago, and it always remembered, damn it, Janet. You remember that with us from like the Rocky Horror Picture Show or something, right? Wasn't it?
Of course, damn it, Janet. And then what was it? I love you.
I guess I forgot about that part.
You forgot that important line.
I did. So, yeah, Diesel Concert Lounge coming up on Saturday, September 2nd. And, man, I was kind of surprised to see you were back out on the road, but then you got this solo album coming out. I know Vixen's played a couple shows this year, so fill everybody in on what's been happening in your world.
Yeah, Vixen, we just played a bunch of shows in August. We were all over the place. We were in Seattle, we were in Chicago, we were at the Wisconsin State Fair, all over the place. And my solo album came out on Friday, the 18th, and we're going to hit the road on September 1st. And yes, we are playing the Diesel. Can't wait for that. And then we're doing some East Coast dates and some Texas dates and then a West Coast run. And busy. Yeah, you're going to be all over the place. Now, people may or may not know, but you've teamed up with your husband, and you kind of put this record together. And explain to everybody how long this project came to come to fruition. Well, it's amazing how fast it was. We started in January, and by April, we were done.
Really?
We had 10 songs ready to go. Yeah, because we lived together. We recorded everything at home in our home studio. So, you know, we were down there in our pajamas at 4 o'clock in the morning. There was no restrictions. There was no time clock ticking on, you know, studio time or another band was coming in. So we just had free reign, and we just took advantage of that.
Now, I could see, now I have a studio in my house, too. Obviously not probably as something as elaborate as you have, because I just do, like, voice stuff and whatnot. But I could see where that could be like a rabbit hole that you don't want to go into, because I was just talking to Kenny Wayne Shepherd about this just yesterday. It's like you know, because he recorded right by his house. And it's like you start thinking about things. Next thing you know, like you say, at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're down there working at it again, you know?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. The good thing is for Justin and I, we had things that we had to do. So, you know, between us, we have 3 kids, for one thing.
Okay.
So there was a lot of time where it was like, okay, we have to do something else. And it was great because then we would come back and you'd see things a little differently. Instead of when you're like doing it for 17 hours straight and you can't think straight, we would come back after a break with the kids or something and then go, oh, I know exactly what this needs. So, yeah, we were lucky that we were forced to leave the studio occasionally, but it was nice to have it right there so you could squeeze it in between other things.
Yeah, I've been at that stage too where I've done stuff and I'm like, man, this is so great. Then I wake up the next day, come back and listen to it. I'm like, yeah, it's not that good.
Exactly. What were we thinking? It was like, because we were delirious. We hadn't slept in 3 days.
That is true. So the record's out. It's got 10 songs, and I saw, like, somebody was talking about, I think maybe you even did an interview with it. You got something from the 70s, a little something from the 80s. I know that there's some, there's even like a little bit of industrial tinge in there with a couple of songs in there as well. So explain the flavor of the album.
Yeah, we're both, everything started for both of us in the 70s with your basics, Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, bands like that. That's where it all started, and that's where everything kind of grew from there. And through each period of time, of course, the 80s, that was obvious. Mm-hmm. That was the woohoo party, sing-along, anthem-y songs. Mm-hmm. So we've got that influence. And then through the 90s, I like that kind of growly swagger, Scott Weiland kind of thing. So there's some of that in there. And then moving forward, yeah, I loved White Zombie and Nine Inch Nails and all that, a little more techie kind of stuff. So when we were writing the songs, we would get the basics down, drums, bass, guitar, and vocals, and take it from there. And we would try things, and if it enhanced the song and made the song better and gave it some, like a rhythmic-y thing or something cool, we left it. And then if it didn't, we left it alone with guitar, drums, and bass and vocals. So there's a few songs that are really basic, and then some that are produced a little more, that have a little more flavor. Well,
your husband is a producer, right?
Yeah.
And he's helped produce, I guess, Stained and Collective Soul and bands like that. So he's no stranger to the studio, and he's no stranger to maybe some of the tricks of the trade as well, huh?
Right. Well, he didn't produce those bands. He played guitar with members of those bands. So as far as production, he's mostly done stuff for himself and things like that. So we were both really kind of experimenting with. He definitely knew more technically than I did, that's for sure. I'm very technically challenged.
Yeah, that makes two of us, yeah.
But we definitely experimented a lot and learned a lot as we went. We got good at it after about a couple weeks of, finding your way around Logic, the program, and trying different things. It's amazing how quick you can adopt technology. Now, it really is.
You're saying that he played guitars. He played guitars on Stained albums?
No, he just did live stuff with members. He did some stuff with Brandon Gibbs.
Okay.
And a couple of guys, one of them from Stained and one from Collective Soul, played in that band with him.
Okay, so. I got you. All right, I see how that works. Okay, because I'm like, I know the guys from Stained a little bit and the Collective Soul a little bit, and I never saw this name before, but yeah, some great bands right there for the 90s. You guys during the 90s, I've talked to a lot of bands this year that were, coming up. I just talked to the guys from Spread Eagle, talked to Bill Leverty from Firehouse not that long ago, and you guys pretty much called it quits through the 90s, right? The early 90s, then you kind of got back together in late 1990s. Tell everybody about how the 90s treated you.
Well, it was obviously like a barren wasteland. Everybody's like, oh, in the 80s, oh, your family, we're here for you, for your career, and blah, blah, blah.
You're talking about the record companies and whatnot, right?
Yeah. And whatnot. Yeah. The business people.
Gotcha.
And all of a sudden, literally, almost overnight, we were in Europe. We were playing a tour with Deep Purple. By the time we got home, no one would take our phone calls. I was like, nope, it's over. You're done. It's like, wait a minute, what happened to all this? Oh, we're here for your career and da-da-da. So...
Yeah, I think I heard a story. I heard a story about somebody, and it might have been when I was talking to the Spread Eagle guys. I can't remember. They walked into their record company one day, and like Skid Row was on a poster behind the receptionist or something. They came back a couple weeks later. It was Kurt Cobain or whatever it was, and it's like and they knew that the days the days were changing.
Yep, that's how it goes. Trends come and trends go. And the good news is things come back around. And if you're doing something good, you're going to find an audience. Might be a little harder, might be more difficult to find an audience, but if you're doing something good, they'll come around. So
yeah,
here we are. We're back.
That's right. And that time was so bizarre because it's like I was on the radio through all those days too, and it's like I don't know if anything's ever come like that before or after. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was definitely, I think it was just such a huge contrast to what was happening. It was all this fun and party and woohoo. And then it was like, everybody go, shoot yourself. It was such a huge contrast that, I think people were ready for a big change and they went for it.
Yeah, I think Billy Sheehan summed it up best when I talked to him a couple months ago. And he said something about that, the record labels were just signing these bands. They were just copycats of other bands. And eventually things just had to break. And it's like he almost kind of welcomed it, he said, because it was this whole new thing that just came in.
Well, I really liked Stone Temple Pilots is still one of my all-time favorite bands. Mm-hmm. And, I loved Soundgarden. There was a lot of that stuff that I totally dug. So I didn't mind it either. I just liked my job and still wanted to do it.
I hear you.
So, and still today, I mean, the Foo Fighters obviously are a product of Nirvana, and they're amazing. So there's great stuff in every era.
Yeah, they're a great band
to find.
Yeah, you're talking about touring and partying and stuff. You went on some pretty hellacious tours during the 80s with the likes of Ozzy and some of Metal's greats, huh?
Yes, but there was no partying.
No partying, none.
No work.
Right.
No partying, no.
I've heard all the stories with ants on the sidewalk and stuff. I even asked Ozzy about that one time. But anyway, so yeah, you went on. Tell me about some of these massive tours you went on.
Yeah, we did Ozzy. We did a couple great European tours. We did the Scorpions and Deep Purple. Those were both long. They were both, I think, 3 months in the dead of winter in Europe. Oh. But it was a blast, and it was such a great learning experience. And getting to know those guys that are all just mega rock star pros, just every night sounded amazing. It was great. And then in the States, of course, we did Ozzy. We did one leg of a Kiss tour with Winger.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that, yeah.
Yeah, we did like Texas, and Slaughter had something else they had to do, so we filled in for them for a while. So that was a great experience. Yeah, we had some good times. No one should be allowed to have that kind of fun.
That's right.
Not fair to everyone else.
Yeah, I guess. I remember I saw you guys at a tour or two, I'm sure, when I was a kid growing up, man. I used to go to all sorts of concerts, and I know Stephen Piercy's coming up. I'm sure you guys toured the Rat back in the day. Got a lot of shows coming through the Motor City now. Still, Tom Kiefer's going to be here next week with, it's his solo project as well. So what a great singer he is.
Oh, and what a great writer. He's got his own thing, and he's got it down. He's really unique and writes great songs. He'll be at it forever.
Yeah, one of my favorites. Hey, something kind of ironic happened the other day. I was just kind of going through some stuff, kind of getting some information down and prepping a little bit for our conversation today. And I happen to be listening to the Tubes because I love the White Punks on Dope. I just bought this album over the weekend, and it's got What Do You Want from Life and all that stuff. And then I was looking through this, and Fee Waybill and Richard Marx were co-writers for Edge of a Broken Heart.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
what's even crazier than listening to the Tubes, and I find that out.
I know. That is funny, how you whatever, 6 degrees of separation or whatever, everything gets back to everything.
I never would have thought the Tubes, or Richard Marx for that matter, would have been involved in a Vixen song, let alone probably your biggest, right?
Right. Well, we knew Richard. We had the same manager at the time, and it was, at the time, a small management firm, which is now huge. But at the time, they only had a few artists, so we got to know him at picnics and things like that. And his album wasn't even out yet when we met him. So he was just a talented dude with a record coming out. So we got to know him a little bit, and he listened to our stuff, and he was like, yeah, we should try to write something together. And when his record came out, it just took off, so he was gone. So much for that. But he came back for a short holiday break or something and said, I got an idea for a song for you guys. So we ran into a pre-production room and worked it out with him, and he said, yeah, I don't have any lyrics, though. I hate writing lyrics. He goes, so I got Fee working on them. So I'm like, okay, so no lyrics. Music's recorded, song's almost done, no lyrics. And I'm literally standing out ready to sing the song, and Fee comes running in with the lyrics. I'm like, great. Richard Marx and Fee Waybill are sitting out in the other room, and I just got lyrics, and I have no idea what to do. But Richard was great. He really coached me through it. He was very encouraging. I would do something, and he'd say, I really like that.
Wow.
Do it like that. And then, he was never like, oh, do it again, that stunk. He was always very upbeat and really focused on what we did well. He's a great producer. Amazing.
I think I own that 45. Experience. I think I ran into it. I ran across it at my father's house. So when I was back in New York a couple weeks ago. But yeah, that was a big hit right there for you guys. Roxy, she's from Detroit. I mean, this is a crazy question, but would she be at the show coming up here on Saturday, September 2nd?
Well, surprise, surprise, you're just going to have to wait and see.
All right. I'm just throwing it out there. I never met her. I don't know where she is. I don't know where she lives, but have you've been in contact with her then, I guess?
Yeah, well, of course.
Of course. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
We gotta hang out and support each other. She's got a Madam X record coming out soon too.
Oh, she does. So, now, for
yes, she does.
People that don't know, that was the band Sebastian Bach was in back in the day as well.
Right. After Roxy left to join us, they got Sebastian.
I got you.
And a different drummer. So Roxy never actually worked with him, but they're friends now. So.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, because my old boss actually picked up Sebastian Bach walking down one of the streets here in Detroit with one shoe on one time. So.
That sounds like him, totally. I know people love to bash him, and I love him.
No, he's a good guy. I like Sebastian. Every
time I've ever sat down with him to have a conversation, I have laughed. I have had the best time. I think he's a character. I think he's one of a kind, amazing dude. I love him to death.
Yeah, Sebastian Bach is great. Would you ever think about collaborating with him, or who would you collaborate with? If you had your choice, if you could pick anybody.
Oh, there's too many. You mean like a singer, like a duet kind of thing?
Anything. If you could put your own band together, singer, who are some of the people you'd really like to work with?
Oh, my gosh. Well, you know what? I love my Vixen girls. That's why I'm not in any other bands ever, because I got the ultimate band, so that's it. And my husband, I got the ultimate solo co-writer, co-producer guy. So I'm pretty happy. At some point, we will bring in some people to do little things here and there on our stuff. But as the songs come up, we'll make that decision. This time it was just the two of us. We did everything. But yeah, there's people I'd love to collaborate with.
So you guys did the drums, the bass, the whole thing now, and then you have to go out and find a band to tour with?
Yeah, exactly. We found a couple of great people, though, so we're really happy with the band. It kicks major butt.
Well, I'll tell you what, a couple more things here for you, Janet. First of all, I just want to get your impression on some of the current females in rock, like Lizzie Hale or Taylor Momsen. Are you familiar with these guys?
Of course.
Yeah, what do you think about Lizzie and Taylor and stuff like that?
Well, Lizzie Hale has like a 1 in a billion voice. She is ridiculous. She's an alien. I don't think she's from this planet. That girl's got a voice that will not stop. And Taylor is really creative and has a great expressive voice, too. I love the Pretty Reckless. She's great. And I like In This Moment, too.
Yeah, In This Moment.
I think she's super cool.
Yeah, that's right. She's a little more on the theatrics, a little more of the show. And Taylor has that a little bit to her, too, I suppose, but not as much. And Lizzie, like you said, we got them playing a show for us coming up at the end of September, and I think they might be working on some new stuff as far as Hailstorm is concerned. But have you had a chance to meet Lizzie before?
No, I heard she's like the coolest person on the planet, too. I hate her. I really do.
Lizzie is one of the nicest people I've met in this business. She's so nice.
And you know why? Because she's so talented that she doesn't have to have any weird attitude or anything. She's like, she has to be just like, no one can touch me. I'm amazing. So I can be nice.
Actually, I know exactly why she's so nice. I asked her about this one time, and this may be a story that you can relate to as well. She told me one time she met Ronnie James Dio, and he said, you'll never remember the names of the faces, but they'll always remember you, so be nice to everybody. And I'll never forget that, because I met Ronnie Dio one time, and he couldn't have been nicer.
Same thing. What a great guy. And, you're out there on the road, and there's a lot of circumstances where you really have a tendency to just go, God, I don't want to deal with anybody right now.
Right.
But people like that, appreciate it so much and take the time to shake your hand. And, you know, I had same thing. I met Ronnie James Dio at a show in L.A. on the Sunset Strip back before we got signed. He took the time to sit me down. You know, I told him I was a singer. I was a big fan, and talked to me about singing and music, and just, I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, wow.
I had kind of the same experience with him. He signed all my I brought all my CD liner notes, which I've never done before or since. I don't know why I even did it that day. He signed them all for me, 6 of them, and he spent like 20 minutes with me when I got up to leave, and he stood up, hugged me, and thanked me for coming. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, this is crazy. It's like, you know, one of my idols growing up, and it was that can't be the only time you met Ronnie, right?
That was the only time I ever met him.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a long time ago.
Man, what a great experience.
I'll never forget it, because at the time we were nobody, we were nothing, and he found out I was a singer, and he was willing to share his wisdom.
That's cool.
I was blown away.
Well, I'll tell you what, last thing for you here, Janet. Thank you so much for the time. September 2nd at Diesel Concert Lounge coming up here in the Motor City. What is going on with Vixen? Do you guys have any plans to record a tour? To what's going to be happening?
We just did a live capture in Chicago at the Arcada Theater. It was a great show. So that's going to come out. And it's the first time we've ever done a live release, believe it or not, in all these years with Roxy and Cher and myself. Okay. And Britt Lightning on guitar. And it's going to sound awesome, so we're excited about that. And we have a couple bonus tracks we're working on for that. And then we're going to start working on new material.
And maybe 2018, you're saying?
Yeah, we got a new member. Britt Lightning is a new member. So as of now, we have just little baby ideas floating around on email. We haven't even really gotten in a room yet. Mm-hmm. So we have a long way to go, but I think we're going to be playing more, so we'll have lots of sound checks to screw around with new ideas. So that'll help.
There you go. Well, Janet, thanks so much for your time. It's great to talk to you. Saturday, September 2nd, Diesel Concert Lounge. I'll have to make the trek out there and say hello in person, and safe travels. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meltdown. Nice talking to you, and I hope to meet you at the show.
Janet Gardner of Vixen, now doing her solo thing, at least for this run, is our guest today on Radio Chatter. Got to thank her for taking the time to call us. That's really cool. Like I said before, I've never met her before. I don't know if I've met any of the guys from Vixen now, come to think of it. Anyhow, Roxy, like I said in the interview, is actually from Detroit, so you would have thought I would have bumped into her somewhere in the last 22 years, but I haven't. Maybe at the show. Who's to say? We'll see what happens. But yeah, how ironic is that? I'm like doing research for this interview, listening to a Tubes record, and I find out that Fee Waybill was, the major, well, at least lyricist for Edge of a Broken Heart. I mean, that's like the craziest thing. So anyhow, pretty cool stuff from Janet. Got to thank her, like I said, for taking the time. And thank you guys for listening as well. If you get a chance, please hit the subscribe button. We've got some really killer interviews coming up. Go back and check out some of the ones I've done this summer. I mean, everyone from James Hetfield to Corey Taylor, Head from Korn. I mean, just some great interviews. So thank you guys so much for listening, as always. Follow me on social media at Meltdown WRIF is like my Twitter and Facebook. I think Instagram, like I said before, is maybe the opposite, WRIF Meltdown or something. I don't know. I can't remember. I can't keep them straight. But thank you so much for checking out Radio Chatter. Until we do it again next time.